And that means only one thing on a Friday. It's time to say good morning and welcome back to talkSPORT and talkRADIO, absolutely live, to our mate Van Connor, tip-top film critic and film expert. He's got 3 recommendations on Freeview for the weekend. I've got 3 of my own, and we share them with you guys so you can pick and choose something to watch when you're not watching the football or listening to the radio on talkSPORT or talkRADIO. Good morning, Van, and how's your week been?
Good morning to you, Mr. Ross. Can't complain as always.
Up very early for us, which we appreciate very much indeed. Up with a lark and up with a great movie on the Sony Movie Channel tonight, 9 o'clock. It's Mel Gibson's Braveheart. I mean, this is a cracking film, isn't it?
You can't help but love Braveheart. It's just one of the seminal films of the early 90s. One of the first ones. I mean, no, it wasn't his first film as director, but I think it's the one we all remember prior to The Passion of the Christ for directorial efforts from Mel Gibson. He also starred, and it's one of those things where now when we look back on it, we tend to forget that when the movie came out, there was this whole thing surrounding it about Mel Gibson doing a Scottish accent. How insane is that?
Except he carries it off brilliantly, and you've got a clip for us, I think, haven't you?
I've not got a clip for you, I've got the clip of this movie. What moment could you possibly play from Braveheart? You know, the story of iconic Scottish warrior William Wallace, other than this rousing speech.
9 o'clock tonight on the Sony Movie Channel. Let's have a listen.
Fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. At least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
I mean, that is rousing stuff there to get their heart beating faster north of the border. And as a quarter Scottish myself, we think, with a Shannon up Ross, it's a cracking film, that Braveheart. 9 o'clock tonight on Sony Movies. Now, I've gone for another 9 o'clock film tonight. It's my Western of the weekend, of course, from 1976 on ITV4, 9 o'clock tonight. It's The Outlaw Josie Wales, directed by and starring, of course, Clint Eastwood. But every scene is stolen by Chief Dan George, of course, of Native American heritage, also a fantastic actor. This is a great kind of, we mentioned it last week or the week before, it's a kind of revenge western because Clint plays somebody who sees his family murdered and slaughtered by this band of Union soldier renegades. He joins the Confederate Army because of that and but refuses to surrender until he's got his vengeance. This is it's almost an old-fashioned western, this, isn't it, I think, man?
Very much so. Like you say about it being a classic, I mean, this is regarded as one of the most iconic of Eastwood's westerns, and its influence, because we talked about it, as you say, recently, because I think it was during your pick of Seraphim Falls a couple of weeks ago, and its influence can be felt elsewhere in other genres as well, but one recently for me has been Firefly and Serenity. Those sort of sci-fi westerns have borrowed heavily from this as well. It's a very iconic work that has been sort of templated into other properties in the decades since, and I say it's just it's one of the all-timers for Eastwood. One of the things I always remember about this is that his female lead, he argued vehemently against casting, only to that it was Sandra Locke,
his then girlfriend.
He made 6 movies with Sandra Locke and then dated her until the late 80s, which is a hell of a story, I think.
Fantastic stuff. It's The Outlaw Josie Wales, 9 o'clock tonight, ITV4. It's from 1976. It was, I think it cost $3 million, made well over $30 million. Here's the trailer.
Suddenly, his wife and child were dead. The feud was about to begin.
Hound this Wales to kingdom come.
Because of what you did here today, I've got to kill that man.
He'll have to run for it now, and hell is where he's headed.
Clint Eastwood is the outlaw Josie Wales.
Well, not a hard man to track. Leaves dead men wherever he goes.
That's a rooting, tooting, shoot 'em up for me tonight, 9 o'clock. Let's go now to tomorrow, and you've got a movie on Channel 4. I must say, I'm looking forward to this because for some reason I missed this at the cinema. I haven't caught up with it. It's 3 billboards outside, is it Ebbings, Missouri?
Ebbing, Missouri. We talked about this. I think it was our very first Oscar night together 3 years ago when this took home. It was Best Actress for Frances McDormand. I think it was Best Supporting Actor for Sam Rockwell. Hell of a film. This is based on 3 actual billboards that writer-director Martin McDonough came across in Texas in 1998, in which they lambasted local law enforcement for their failure to solve a murder. A very obvious murder in that case, and it's happened in plot of this film as well. Frances McDormand hires 3 billboards in order to basically berate Woody Harrelson's local sheriff department for failing to solve the rape and murder of her daughter. And her purchase of these billboards sets off a series of events that leads to tragedy, it leads to romance, it leads to twists and turns and drama, and as the awards would suggest, some absolutely terrific performances. And I've got a clip for you of Woody Harrelson, let's just say, causing some trouble for Frances McDormand in the wake of these billboards.
It's Channel 4 tomorrow night, 9:15. Here's the clip.
Hey there, Mildred. You didn't have to pay a visit to the dentist today, did you?
No.
Huh?
I said no.
Oh, so it wasn't you who drilled a little hole in one of Big Fat Jeffrey's big fat thumbnails, no?
Of course not.
Huh?
I said, of course not. You drilled a hole in the dentist? Denise, no, I didn't.
I thought it was kind of funny myself, but he wants to press charges, so we're going to have to bring you in, I'm afraid.
Wow, I mean, that does sound a fantastic film. And somebody's corrected me already. Apparently, Chief Dan George, I said Native American heritage. They say he was from north of the 49th parallel, Canada. But Canada is also, of course, on the continent of North America. So if we're being pedantic, he is still an American. Anyhow, let's go on to my recommendation for tomorrow. I love this film. I've not seen it for a couple of years, but it's on at 2:05, unusual time, tomorrow afternoon, BBC 2. Dates from 1968, and it's one of the most iconic of Steve McQueen's films for me, called The Thomas Crown Affair, directed by Norman Jewison. What I love about this film is, like with some of Peckinpah's films, like Junior Bonner around this time with Steve McQueen, brilliant use in this film of a split screen. It's a fantastic film, this, isn't it, Van?
Very much. I mean, that split-screen use was revolutionary at the time. The thing I didn't know about this until I revisited it this week was that this came out within mere months of Bullitt.
Yeah.
And the two were basically pitched as sort of right McQueen movies. And McQueen himself preferred this. I also didn't know that Sean Connery passed on it. That's mind-blowing to me.
In fact, Faye Dunaway's the romantic lead in it. It's the story of, as I'm sure you know, it's remade with Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo a few years ago. There's always talk of another remake. It's basically a kind of mega-rich, but also very bright but bored businessman who plots what he thinks is the perfect crime. I think it influenced Tarantino because the men he enlists are all given code names of colours, aren't they? Which, of course, is what happens in Reservoir Dogs. A brilliant film. It's 2:05. It's tomorrow afternoon on BBC 2. Seriously, do yourself a favour, record this and watch it at your leisure. And here's the song from it, which won an Oscar, performed by Rex Harrison's son, Noel Harrison. Could have played the trailer. I thought I'd give you a burst of this beautiful song. It's Windmills of Your Mind.
Round, like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning, on an ever-spinning reel, like a snowball down a mountain, or a carnival balloon, like a carousel that's turning, running rings around the moon, like a clock whose hands are sweeping past the minutes of its face, and the world is like an apple whirling silently in space, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Wow, like a tunnel that you follow to a tunnel of its own. In fact, Sting re-recorded it for the Pierce Brosnan film. So that's my recommendation for Saturday, tomorrow, 2:05. BBC 2, it's the Thomas Crown Affair. I've also got an afternoon recommendation, Van, for Sunday for people, 2:25. It's on Channel 5. It's based on a screenplay by Terry Jones initially, but there are plenty of other people, including, rumour has it, George Lucas got involved in it. It's the last film that Jim Henson directed. It was a bit of a box office disappointment when it first came out. It's now an absolute cult classic from 1986. Who doesn't know Van Connor, David Bowie and co, Jennifer Connelly as a 16-year-old in Labyrinth. This is a family belter, isn't it?
It really is, and like you say, I mean, not a hit at the time, but they're like Rocky Horror in that way. Not a hit when it came out, but then almost immediately became this huge cult phenomenon. I've been to screenings of this, you know, as recently as the last few years, and it's still absolutely immense in its popularity. People turn up in costume. Everybody loves David Bowie in this, and his sort of performance is this almost goth-friendly Heathcliff, if you could describe him that way. And the film has all these weird influences from everything from sort of a Jim Hensonified Wizard of Oz to, you know, little bits of M.C. Escher in there, and Where the Wild Things Are, and, you know, Jane Eyre. There's all sorts of stuff in there, but it's an absolutely phenomenal film.
And at the heart of it is the babe. What babe? Here is David Bowie as Jareth the Goblin King. Tell us about the magic dance.
You remind me of the babe. Babe with the power. Power of voodoo. You do. Remind me of the babe. Quiet. A goblin babe. Well,
great performance. Camp as a row of pink tents in the late Dale Winton's back garden, though. Fantastic film from me. 2:25 Sunday afternoon, Channel 5. What are we ending with, Van? What's your final choice for us for Sunday?
You know, I can't help but love a good comic book adaptation, and a comic book I actually quite enjoyed in the late noughties was The Losers by Jock and Andy Diggle, and it was a Vertigo comic. This was originally meant to be directed by Tim Story, who made the Fantastic Four movies, wound up being adapted by Sylvain White in the end, with Peter Berg, no less, producing. It's the story. This came out around the same time as that remake of The A-Team by Joe Carnahan.
And this is the film. This is the film the A-Team should have been. The A-Team had Liam Neeson. This has got one of my favourite actors, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in The Losers, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Negan from The Walking Dead, or John Winchester from Supernatural, as you could call him. Absolutely phenomenal effort. This has a cast that includes Idris Elba, Jason Patrick, a pre-Captain America Chris Evans, Zoe Saldana. They are the team of elite mercenaries for hire who are betrayed and set out for revenge and to clear their names. I've got a clip for you of Idris Elba's character of Roke and Chris Evans' character of Jensen, basically faking injuries to summon and hijack a military medical helicopter.
As you do. It's 9 o'clock. It's Sunday night. It's ITV4. It's The Losers.
Base 1, this is Cavalier 415. We've been in a collision with a civilian vehicle. We need medevac immediately.
Roger, Cavalier 415.
Robert De Niro, who?
We're scrambling a chopper.
Jensen, shut up. You shut up, Roke. You're dead. I'm spinal injury. Spinal injury can talk.
Base 1, this is Medvac Delta. We have visual on Cavalier 415.
Here we go.
All right, buddy. We're going to get you patched up in no time.
Oh, my God. Hi. What's your name?
Half a dozen real crackers there, Van. Now, remind people where we can hear you and our Monday regular, the perfect Rebecca Perfect, talking movies. And also, you do 2-minute movies as well, don't you?
I do indeed. You can hear Ms. Perfect and I from 6 a.m. every Friday on podcast platforms on the Off-Screen Show, offering the week's guide to everything great to be found at home in the realm of movies, Freeview, streaming, movies you can rent on, new movies on digital. And you can hear me on my own on 2-minute movies on podcast platforms as well. I think this week I'm covering Come As You Are, the brilliant sex comedy about 3 disabled 20-somethings, and the death row drama Clemency, starring Alfred Woodard, which you really shouldn't miss.
Fantastic stuff. Van Connor's back with us next Friday, we hope, on talkSPORT and talkRADIO. Coming up, the definitive preview.